Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy, the last Productive Joy of 2025. Holy cow. This year went so fast, and we are sitting here at December 30th on the precipice of a brand new year with brand new things ahead of us. And I know we're all kind of in that weird state between Christmas and New Year's, trying to figure out what we're supposed to do with ourselves. Well, I'm going to challenge you to find some joy. And the reason I'm going to challenge you to find some joy is not just because this podcast is called Productive Joy, but because I know it works. I have watched it work for this entire year. I have watched it work for probably all 49 of my years, and I want it to work for you. So today we're going to recap some of the fabulous definitions of productive joy that people have given us over the year. But before I do that, I need to tell you that I know joy works. So my dear friend, Kelsey's daughter, JoJo, had the opportunity this year to be part of a fantasy football league. And do you know how she picked her players? She's 11. She picked her players by whether or not they smiled in their profile picture. And so she picked all of her players. All of them were smiling in their profile pictures, which would allude to some joy in their lives. And guess what? She won. So I am here to tell you that joy works. And no, it doesn't look exactly the same for everyone, which is why we're going to go through these definitions right now. So are you ready to go on a little recap journey with me? I am excited to take you here. So we have had an unbelievable list of guests this year, really fabulous human beings who are fun and funny and exciting and all of the things that we know work and do well for just life in general. But I've grabbed a few that I want to share with you, and these are definitions that they came up with. So they're not in any particular order, and it certainly doesn't cover all of my humans, but it will take you on a little journey through what productive joy is. Here's your purpose for listening. I want you to decide which parts of these definitions you want for your own definition of productive joy, because by the end of this episode, I would very much like you to walk away with your own definition. So I'm going to start with somebody who hasn't been on the podcast yet. She will be a guest in 2026. Her name is Dr. Tamara Harris Gilliam. And Dr. Gilliam is just a fabulous human being. And she's been an avid listener. So she gave her definition in some comments. And her definition was, productive joy is the energy I feel when my work is meaningful and my relationships are genuine. When I lead with purpose, intention, and heart. I think that's a beautiful way to get us started. So thank you, Tamara, for recognizing the value of relationships and making sure that what you're doing is meaningful. Then we had Dr. Carrie Graham. Carrie and I were instant friends because we both graduated from Catawba College, which is in Salisbury, North Carolina, in the middle of nowhere. And that made us just instant buddies. But Dr. Graham said, for me, productive joy is a balance of personal growth and supportive relationships, a sense of peace and ease while I'm being intentionally productive. I really like that word, intentional. As a matter of fact, if you can see my bracelet, this one says intentional. This one says joy. My daughter got the stuff to make bracelets this year, and I'm having fun thinking about my words. So my word this year for 2026 is intentional. And I think that's what I appreciate most about Dr. Graham's definition, intentionally productive. Quasi Johnson was another fantastic guest who believes in all things joy as well. He said productive joy is choosing to be impactful, not just impressive, staying authentic and creating psychologically safe spaces where real collaboration can happen. Choosing to be impactful, not just impressive. We spend a lot of our time trying to impress people that we don't even care about. Instead, we need to be impactful with what we're doing. And then I had Amy Kemp. And you all know, if you've listened at all, you've heard her name over and over because she was game-changing for me. I decided to get coached by Amy, and she has just this beautiful way about her that it makes you want to be a part of her space. She said, productive joy is discovering your unique genius and using it to push past mental barriers so your life and work feel aligned again. I'm all in on that, Amy. Thank you. Okay, Paige Arnoff Finn was another fun guest that we had, and she said productive joy is finding happiness in your career by aligning your work with your values and using your strengths on purpose. There is so much power packed in that definition. I was listening to Chris Williamson on the Diary of a CEO podcast this week, and he talked about imagine if you're good at your job but you hate it, how fantastic you would be if you loved it. That to me is productive joy. So maybe that's something that you need to grab in 2026. Remember, you're supposed to be listening for your own definition. And maybe that's part of yours is finding that ability to align your work with your values. Georgie Intoven talks to us a lot about where you spend your time. And she said productive joy is the sweet spot where income and impact meet. When your career supports both your purpose and your joy. I do believe it was Georgie that taught us that 90,000 hours of our life is spent working, so we better enjoy it. Dr. Kampoff said that she said, productive joy is living with purpose, doing the things that give life meaning and pull you into the present moment. I really appreciate the idea of being present. In this moment, right now, I'm going to choose joy. I'm not going to run from joy. I am going to lean into joy and I'm going to look for it. If you've listened to any podcast anywhere in the last year, you're starting to hear the theme of joy. And it isn't just because it's fun, although it is. Joy brings a different attitude to what you're doing, and I'm all in. I'm going to lean in. Vivian OKK said, productive joy is work that aligns with your purpose. It doesn't drain you. It leaves you satisfied instead of exhausted. I want to be satisfied instead of exhausted. I don't want to be exhausted at the end of the day. I want to be excited about what I was able to accomplish in that day. Every day doesn't always look like that, but why not? What can I do? What's within my sphere of influence? Remember, that's a lot bigger than your sphere of control. What's within my sphere of influence to make sure that I am satisfied at the end of the day? Thank you, Vivian. I needed that reminder. Christian F. Johnson said that productive joy is the fruit of alignment. When you starve distractions, live from your center, and your actions match your calling. So that goes back to those values. Do your actions match your calling? And if not, why not? Danny Del Vecchio is a social media guru who helps people create the types of videos that people want to watch. And he said, productive joy is doing the work that moves you closer to your goals and makes you happy. Like creating with clients in a supportive creative space. As I mentioned, he helps people put their brand online and make sure that they are telling the story that they want to tell. I think there's power in those words. Curtis McCullum said, productive joy comes from within. Learning, growing, expanding, and transforming while showing up as your authentic self instead of carrying old baggage. Gosh, what baggage do you need to get rid of in 2026? I know I have some. I know I have a lot. And I really want to be thoughtful about what I'm going to carry with me into 2026. So you all know that Jason and I are marriage mentors. And one of the things that we talk to our couples about is that when they get married, they walk in with baggage. And that baggage is a lot like dirty gym clothes in a sealed bag, like just foul. And you have to open the bag and take each item of clothing out and decide, am I going to wash this? Am I going to keep it? Am I going to throw it away? But if you just leave it there to fester, it will catch up with you. Well, guess what? You're carrying old baggage into this year, and you need to decide, am I going to wash this? Am I going to throw it away? Or am I going to buy something new altogether? We have to take control of our controllables and stop being done unto, right? All right, I had not one but two nights this year. I had Sir Rita Boises, it's French, and I didn't say that exactly right, and also Sir Paul Flynn. And both of them had great definitions of productive joy. I know I'm not saying that right. Productive joy is choosing joy and authenticity, even on the hard days, smiling, staying grateful, and believing you're strong enough to turn problems into possibilities. Sir Paul Flynn said productive joy is found in participation and purpose. treating life less like a race to achievements and more like fully showing up to serve. How often are we racing to a destination instead of living in the moment? As a matter of fact, that's happening to me right now as we speak. I was doing my year-end review of intentionality group, of productive joy, of where I am right now and where I want to be. And I started to get pretty down on myself and not pleased with the number of appearances I made or the number of contacts that I made. And I fully and completely overlooked the 240 episodes of Productive Joy that we produced, or the TEDx that I got to do, or the different presentations that I had the opportunity to do that really did change lives. Why? Because I live in the gap and not the gain. And so I want to encourage you to listen to Paul Flynn and or me. Do as I say, not as I do, right? But treating life less like a race to achievements, but more fully showing up to serve. Tyler Mount was one of my favorite guests. He is a ball of energy and such a delight. And he said, productive joy is what happens when you stop performing and start being fully yourself. Progress becomes omnidirectional and always net positive. Thank you for that little math equation, Tyler. I think there's power in it. I also interviewed Tina Miller. Tina is pretty awesome, and she created several high schools for students who have addictions. And she is changing their lives, literally changing their lives. And I had the privilege of training her staff this year on how to make environments safe, logical, fun, and memorable. She said, productive joy is helping one person every day, turning our hardest experiences into hope and humor for someone else. You know, Ed Milet says that we're best equipped to help the person we used to be. And I think that's what Tina is saying here, is that we have the ability to take our learning, our experience, and turn it into something powerful for somebody else. And then my definition, we're going to end on that. Productive joy for me is finding bright spots in the chaos so that you can create a better result. Whether that result is a product or a moment or a conversation, you get to decide. So productive joy clearly isn't exactly the same to everyone. And that's the point. You get to determine what productive joy looks like, and you get to determine how often you live in it. I did have a guest this year who said, oh, great, now we have to make joy productive. And I appreciate that statement. But what I mean when I say productive joy is that you're living in your joy and you're allowing it to propel you forward. Productive means a whole lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to mean in work. That's actually why my podcast is not called Make Work Fun So People Don't Quit. It's not just about work. It's about every minute of every day looking for the joy. So today, as we wrap up this year, we have one day left of 2025. I hope for you that you do an audit and you recognize where joy lives and where joy is absent, and figure out how to make those two meet so you have very little spaces in your life where joy is absent, if any. I don't think you have to have any. I think you can find joy even in the sorrow. So I am so grateful that you have chosen to spend any part of 2025 with me. I am also very hopeful that you will choose to spend parts of 2026 with me as well. We've got great things planned. I've already interviewed some fantastic guests for January. This is going to be a banner year, y'all. So go on this journey with me. And today, I need you to take a nugget or two of wisdom for your definition, because that was your challenge at the beginning of this episode, was to find your definition of productive joy and then live it, please. Not for me, for you, because it will change everything about how you do things. So today and every day, my hope for you is that you figure out a way to turn fun into action.